Good morning. My name is Dana Burke, and I'm a freshman at the Hotel School, as well as a programs manager for the 95th Annual Hotel Ezra Cornell. As a key player in Marriott International since 2002, we are proud to welcome Vice President of Social Impact and Public Affairs, Melissa Froehlich Flood. In addition to her role at Marriott, Ms. Froehlich Flood is a member of the Executive Committee of the Board of Directors for the U.S. Travel Association and is on the Board of Directors for both the International Tourism Partnership and the Executive Council on Diplomacy. In her presentation, looking outside the four walls of hotel operation, Ms. Froehlich Flood will position hospitality as a solution to some of today's global challenges, including climate change, natural disasters, human trafficking, income inequality, and more. Please welcome Ms. Froehlich Flood as she discusses the impact and responsibility of hotel operators today.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. I have to say, I'm sad not to be with you in Ithaca. I was hoping to come up. Last time I was there, it was who was a student at Cornell. So I would have been probably like 7 or 8. So it's been a while since I've been to Ithaca. So I'm sorry not to be able to be with you, but glad to be able to join you virtually today. And Mike, it was great to hear your words. And I think Mike and DC Central Kitchen are a great partner to Marriott. And so I'm going to walk you through the evolution of our thinking at Marriott around social impact, social good, and of being a force for good in the communities where we're doing business. Hospitality has always been about service excellence, and it's really been about the service excellence inside the four walls of the hotel. But in the last few years, we see that hotels have been active in the communities, but it's really shifted from being a nice to and something that is a feel-good experience for associates in a hotel, a business, and to be seen as a force for good in the community, and to address some of the communities in which we're operating their most pressing challenges. For us at Marriott, we have many, many hotels. We've got over 7,000 hotels in 130 countries. And so we have a lot of places with a lot of different types of need. And we really believe that we have responsibilities. And as I said, it's really become much more of a business imperative than it had been before. And there are a lot of different stakeholder groups that are driving that, pushing us to think about how we're engaging in a really comprehensive way. So I'll walk you through a couple of the different stakeholder groups that have helped push us in this evolution over the course of the last few years. As you can see, consumers are paying attention. More and more consumers are wanting transparency, and they want to understand that the companies that they are doing business with are good companies and that align with their values. And while millennials and Gen Z in particular care about that, I would argue that that trend of companies being responsible and people wanting to do business with responsible companies has really trickled into other generations as well. Talent has really started to look at the entire panoply of employment and what the different opportunities are that companies provide. 88% of talent say that their jobs are more fulfilling when they are provided opportunities to make a positive impact on social and environmental issues that are happening in their communities. And as companies are trying to teach themselves and keep and attract solid talent, that's a really nice way to add a dimension to the employee-employer relationship. And then lastly, loyalty is earned. 83% of customers say they're more loyal to a company that helps them contribute to social and environmental issues. So I'm going to go one by one on these 4 groups here and give you a sense of what we're seeing. And I should have said at the outset, I'm happy to take questions. If I was in the room, I would be asking you all to pepper me with questions so that I'm not just monologuing here. So I've got some folks in the room with me that have my phone, and they're ready to accept texts, and they'll interrupt me with questions if you guys just want to jot it down. 202-320-8134, and they will interrupt me with any questions you may have, and certainly I can take some questions. Also 202-320-8134. Sorry, I should have said that at the outset. But I'll go back to customers. So two stats here really around the trust and being able to trust the brands to do the right thing as being increasingly important for consumers. And also what I want you to see in the second bullet here is the escalation, right? So consumers are more willing to switch to brands that are associated with something good as opposed to several years ago. And so that expectation is increasing, and it's imperative that business. It is also, from a customer perspective, we're not just looking at an individual transient customer, we're also looking at our large B2B customers. So this internal stakeholders is happening to all businesses, not just those in hospitality. And so you're seeing different business groups like the Business Roundtable and the World Economic Forum, which are essentially large convenings of CEOs and business leaders, really talking about the importance of environmental, social, governance, social impact, whatever you want to call it. They're talking more about how important the issues of society are on our ability to do business and the important role that business can play. Last year, the Business Roundtable put forth the purpose of a corporation, and it was really evolutionary in that it was the first time that the Business Roundtable and the collective group of over 100 high-profile CEOs, including Marriott CEO Arne Sorensen, said that the purpose of a corporation is about more than just business, holder value, and profit, and that it really includes our associates, the opportunities that we're providing to our employee community, and also to the broader community outside the four walls of our businesses, and for us, the four walls of our hotel. And the reason why that's so important is obviously our B2B customers are huge, and they have massive purchasing power, stakeholders that they are responsible for and to. And so they're actually asking us more and more, Marriott, tell us more about what you're doing in the community so that we can take that information and make our purchasing decisions with that information. And they're then aggregating the impact data that we are giving to them as part of their reporting processes as well. And of course, it's also becoming increasingly important to our investor community. The investor is looking more and more at what companies are doing, whether they're addressing risks that are inherent to their business and the types of businesses that they're in, and how they are engaging in challenging issues. And they're making investment decisions from it. You've got investors that are part of large institutional funds, and then you've got social impact investors that are really more looking for investments in companies discreetly that are paying attention to these important issues. Millennials and Gen Z, so they, as I mentioned, expect alignment with their values, but I wanted to just show you a couple of data points here around the or for their family. But as they're increasingly in the workforce or entering the workforce, businesses, large corporate customers, part these investment decisions are part of Millennial and Gen Z mentality, right? That are expecting the alignment and that companies are taking action on these important issues. And I think these percentages here, 91%, 90% more willing to purchase from social or environmental benefit or do business with companies that are addressing some of these pressing issues. And I think the key piece here is the addressing of the issues. You're not expected to be perfect. And I'll talk a little bit about an example where it's a challenge for the industry to be perfect, but you are expected to be transparent, and you are expected to know what you can do and to take steps to do what you can do. Talent. So I mentioned talent. Look, there is a race for talent for our industry with low unemployment currently in the United States. It is more important than ever for employers to differentiate themselves and to really demonstrate that talent is going to have an opportunity to do good in their community, and that it will be about a community that is bigger than just the folks that are sitting within their office space or within their team and their group. So you'll see some statistics here. And I think what is popping out for me here is the loyalty piece, that employees are more loyal to companies that help them contribute to social and environmental issues. And in the race to attract talent, it's also incredibly important to keep and engage your talent. I would also say with regard to talent, having service excellence outside the four walls of the hotel really helped, from a hospitality perspective, drive that service excellence inside the hotel. I think it is an excellent training ground. It helps broaden perspective when associates have the opportunity to be in their community, to be working with key partners like DC Central Kitchen, for example, that are doing really meaningful work. It helps them have a new dimension on service and a new understanding of what service really means, and they bring that into the culture of the hotel. So providing employees those opportunities is more important than ever, as we're all racing to differentiate our brands and our service from the competitors across the street. So loyalty, as you all likely know, we acquired Starwood Hotels and Resorts 3 years ago. And one of the major drivers of the acquisition and why it was an attractive acquisition for Marriott was because they had really fostered an incredibly loyal community of customers. And so that loyalty community was really important as core to the acquisition. Part of it is figure out, how do we continue to build that loyalty? And yes, it's about points and earning and redeeming, but it's also about building trust and really building that sense of belonging and sense of community, that the loyalty community is a community in and of itself, and folks are in it together. And so you can see some statistics here. Again, we're getting back to trust and loyalty a lot. In the third bullet here, around 84% of customers would give companies with an excellent CSR program the benefit of the doubt in the event of a crisis. This is increasingly important, and it became incredibly important to Marriott in 2018 when we had a couple challenges with labor. We had some labor strikes, as you all may have seen in 2018. We also had a data security incident with regard to customer data. We really drew on that reputational well, that our customers knew that we were a good company, that we were going to address the shortcomings, that we were going to address the challenges and the issues, and then we were going to get it right past those challenges and really draw on that sort of loyalty well that had been earned with our customers. So all of all of these data points has really driven home for us that we needed to be more deliberate than ever to ensure that we knew what we meant when we said we wanted to be a force for good in the communities where we were doing business, and that we were giving our associates something to really tether to and to really motivate and galvanize them around a common purpose. And so for us, that meant the launch of a new framework. And so in 2017, we launched a new platform to help us address some of these pressing global and local challenges. We call it Serve 360, doing good in every direction. And the 4 coordinates are operations, empower through opportunity, and welcome all, and advance human rights. And just in terms of the moment in time for the company, it was 2017. It was right after our merger with Starwood, Starwood having also had a very rich culture of community engagement. It was also the 90-year anniversary of Marriott, and so the moment was really right. Taste cultures that prioritize community engagement and bring them together with a unified commitment. And so Serve 360 was born, and I think the key piece for Serve 360 really, and the success that we've seen, was we first focused on our associates, making sure that it was known and it was a galvanizing force internally, but then also that it was something that was globally relevant, so it provided that framework, which means it's a fairly wide tent to ensure that we're encapsulating the needs and the energy of our associates in the communities in which we're doing business in those 130 countries globally. But it also had the to be locally implemented, right? So we can tether then the different activations in these 4 priority areas that are happening all over the world by our teams at the local level and really knit them together into a common narrative. And that really helps the company be able to storytell and in a more cohesive way articulate what we mean when we say we want to be a force for good. And so Serve 360 has actually been a nice place as well for us to be able to talk to our customers. When the initial intent was really to give that framework to associates, it's also proved to have external value as well. And part of launching Serve 360 that was hugely important was making sure that accountability to make sure that we were driving toward solutions to some of the pressing issues that we identified. And I think another key piece for us, and I think this is really important for all hotels paying attention to and hospitality professionals, is figuring out what are you being held accountable for? What is most material to the business that you're in? I'll give you an example. We're not a healthcare company. No one is holding Marriott responsible for curing cancer, for example. But we do have a lot of aspects in our business that mean that people are looking to us to address challenges around income inequality. And that means that we are looking to create those pipelines for talent from disadvantaged backgrounds to find their way into a hospitality career. We're also being asked to do more around resiliency. So not only building up our communities ahead of a disaster before they need the face of a challenge. We are also looking to address, of course, climate change and environmental impacts that are associated with the growth of our business. If we do not do that, we will not have the ability to grow. And then the last one that I would mention as well in terms of addressing the most material issues for our business is around human rights and addressing some of the challenges, for example, around human rights as that lands on our doorstep. So I'm going to actually ask this slide to go back to nurture, and I'll give you a good example. And I think one of the key pieces as we are looking to address some of these most material issues is that we are partnering with the right people who are on the ground at the right moment, whether those are global partners or local partners, to make sure that we have success as we try to address some of these issues. So a good example I'll give you is our partnership with World Central Kitchen. It was really born out of the hurricanes in 2017 and 2018. And one of the things I think is really you respond in times of disaster, because often people need shelter, they need kitchens, and they need bodies, and we have that. And so World Central Kitchen was in Puerto Rico looking to help the population, and we had hotels that had kitchens, that had staff, and those hotels were otherwise closed. And so we were able to partner with World Central Kitchen. They took over our kitchens at the Dorado Beach Ritz-Carlton for several months, and that was the hub out of which they fed thousands and thousands of people across the island. So really incredible work that World Central Kitchen was able to do, but we were able to partner with them based on the nature of the business that we're in, help create impact in that community. And now we are in it long-term, trying to figure out how are we sourcing from farmers as they are rebuilding and on their path to recovery. So I'll speak a bit about sustained responsible operations and a couple proof points here. Our team does not implement sustainability for Marriott. We have sustainability and global procurement, supplier diversity as part of our global operations team. But a few things that you may have seen coming from the sustainability team lately are the commitment to remove plastic straws and stirrers from all properties globally, and we estimate that's going to eliminate over 1 billion plastic straws and stirrers per year. And then the move to replace tiny toiletry bottles with larger pump top, of preventing 500 million tiny bottles, which is 1.7 million pounds of plastic from going into landfill. And while these are tiny steps, I can tell you the team building and operating hotels more sustainably, and what are we doing to reduce single-use items on property. And they've got some excellent global partners that they're working with that are helping them along journey, like the World Wildlife Fund, Arbor Day Foundation, etc. And I think I would add here our license to grow, which is always a huge priority at Marriott. Mr. Marriott always says when asked like what's the goal for the company, he says more. And so what that means for us is more hotels, but it also means more sustainable hotels, because we will not be able to grow if it's not linked to doing it responsibly and in a sustainable manner. Empower through opportunity. This is where I mentioned we're building the pipeline for folks to find their path to hospitality careers. A great global example is the International Rescue Committee. IRC is a leading service provider for refugees globally. They have a program in the United States that helps provide hospitality training. We developed the curriculum with them, donated it to them, and they're now deploying it to refugees that have been resettled in the United States that are looking to get into hospitality careers. And so we're partnering with them to ensure hiring pull through as well. DC Central Kitchen, of course, is another great example where we are partnering with DC Central Kitchen to training program and provide those job shadowing training opportunities so that folks can find their career path in F&B and hospitality as well. And by the way, those are meeting acute business needs for talent and also serving community needs. So it's a nice win-win situation. And then the last that I'll mention is welcome all and advance human rights. This is where we're really elevating travel and where we're also using our business to advance human rights, both inside the four walls of our hotel and with what Marriott's doing, but also with our supplier community and across our value chain as well. An issue that had the last few years is sex trafficking and forced labor. And so human trafficking has become an increasingly known issue, and fortunately hotels can find themselves on the front line if traffickers choose to bring that illegal activity to our hotels. We've had a human rights policy in place for a long time, but we enhanced it in 2017. And in 2016, we realized that we needed to do more to train our people so that they had a sense of what trafficking looked like and what to do if they saw something. And so in partnership with ECPAT, which is a leading nonprofit organization, and Polaris, also a leading anti-trafficking organization in this space in the United States, we developed training. It hits on job-specific areas across the hotel. So what a housekeeper might see is different than what front desk might see, different than what restaurant staff might see. And it runs through the indicators, the common indicators that our associates should be paying attention to. And then it helps empower our associates to know what to do if they do see something. So we rolled out the training in 2016. We made it mandatory in 2017 across managed and franchise and across the globe. It was the first non-service oriented training that we put in the community. And if that sends a signal that this is important, it should. That was the intention. And we wanted to make sure our folks weren't passing this huge risk to the business and to the safety of our hotels. It wasn't enough to just keep it at Marriott. We donated the training. It has been widely used across the industry because we've helped no one if someone goes across the street, if they see that Marriott has protocols in place, and if they take that illegal activity someplace else. So we've donated the training to make sure that cost is not a barrier for other hotel entities, particularly smaller entities in our franchise community, to access to that best-in-class training. So in rolling out the training and making it mandatory in 2017, we also set a goal to train 100% of our on-property associates. We're tracking really nicely toward that goal, and so far we've over 700,000 people to spot the signs of human trafficking. And in 2018, we also rolled out posters. So you are seeing some of the images of the posters that we rolled out. So we rolled out back of house posters first to reinforce the indicators of the training. And then in 2019, we modified those posters to make them guest facing for travelers, to educate travelers on what they can be looking for and what they as a in our hotels can do if they see signs of human trafficking. So this is another way, again, that we decided to engage our by educating travelers. That was a bit of a new dimension for us in terms of including our guest community beyond just our associates in this journey. So I think what we have learned at Marriott is that being for good really means that you need to be part of the solution. And the solution looks different in different communities. And so for us, that's really been around empowering our associates and potential talent. That improves their service skills and it helps them do a better job of taking care of the guests. And it also helps them feel good about working with us and for Marriott. It also helps to come at the over-tourism undertow. I think you all have seen it. There are definitely challenges with growth in travel that different communities are facing. And it allows us, if we are involved in the communities in which we're doing business, differentiate ourselves from other businesses that are really seen as just drawing on the resources of a community rather than reinvesting in the community, which is why local sourcing and being involved in community is so tremendously important to really combat that over-tourism undertow that we're seeing take hold in a lot of different jurisdictions. And again, that kind of gets back to the license to operate, license to grow. Brand differentiation of the customer relationship, and we want our customers to feel good about doing business with us, not just because they have a great experience with us in the hotel, but also because they feel good about the company that they're doing business with, and they trust that we're doing the right thing on their behalf. And then last, this long-term view, right, that really reinforces to the community that we are in it for the long haul, and that really reinforces that hotels are often the pillars of a community. And I would argue, guys, as hotels engage outside the four walls, right? The four walls, it really becomes less about outside the hotel and inside the hotel. And what we really see is an expansion of the four walls. And it just means that that hotel community really expands and gets bigger. And as we expand that hotel impact and as the four walls get wider, there is wider benefit because we're able to engage more people in the journey. And so suppliers, for example, when we made the decision to move to tiny bottles, that had to be done in conjunction with suppliers. As Marriott moves the industry in many cases, and so the supplier community had to be involved and engaged in that decision. And now that decision is going to have ripple effects across the industry. Policymakers and influencers, they see the and they recognize that while it may not be perfect, that we are being transparent and we're being proactive. And they're legislating in a lot of this space, whether it's around human trafficking, training, single-use plastics, et cetera. So helping them to understand what we're already doing can be really helpful from a business perspective to engage them in those conversations so that they're not making decisions in a vacuum that are going to have operational challenges once we're trying to implement them. Customers are going to be more patient, give you the benefit of the doubt, and become your advocates. And so engaging that customer base and, again, expanding their relationship with you is critically important. And then that last piece, this is where the B2B customer engagement is hugely important. Differentiating the brand for owners and for investors really fuels that growth and provides that social license to create. And so as each of you really figure out in your place in the industry today or in your careers, I would challenge each of you to figure out what is within your sphere of influence and then identify what you can do to be a force for good in the hospitality industry. Because I think the pressures and the opportunities for all of us in hospitality to continue to be those pillars of the community, but really do it in a deliberate way, are only to contemplate what can you do to be a force for good. I'm happy to take questions if anybody has any questions. You can see my cell phone number if you didn't catch it on the front end. Okay, great, we have a couple questions.
Yes, so certain under Marriott have different social and environmental focuses based on certain customer segments. Were the goals consistent for all Marriott brands?
Okay, so the question was, do we have different and focus depending on the different brands? So for those of you that know, we've got 30 brands. They have different sort of customer segments. The goals for the company are the Serve 360 goals, right? So the 4 priorities of the company is focused on are fairly wide 10. So I walk through nurture, empower, sustain, welcome. Where we really see though brand differentiation is within the partnerships, because partners and brands really care about, figure out based on what that customer segment of that particular brand cares about. Do we have an opportunity to identify a partner, a new partner, or with an existing partner that one of our brands can partner with to really bring a brand partner and a nonprofit partner into a collaborative experience that allows them to with our brand team to try to figure out what are those partnerships, what are those programs that allow the brand to be authentic to the brand pillars, but also to really reach that customer segment in a way that tethers back all goals and priorities of the company. Then there was another question. Can you read it loud?
Yeah. Are you finding that there's any or a lot of resistance to any changes such as removing single-use products? You talk about millennials being responsive to older generations responding to this.
Yeah, it was funny when we rolled out the tiny bottles. We had a couple of our executives saying that they thought their parents were going to be really upset about it because they tend to the tiny bottles and put it in guest rooms. There's a little bit of change management that has to happen, but I think our guests are really resilient, and if we explain to them and if we bring them along in the journey to the changes that we've made. And I would say a bit back to the prior question as well, the changes that we're making are different for different brands. So that was a big conversation. Top dispenser in a luxury property versus a select service property. And so the delivery is different, but the overall goal, the overall objective remains the same. And I think our customers are really pleased that with these steps, and so far the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from our customer community. I don't think there are any more questions, so I will just say thank you. And we'll look forward to you all doing good in your communities.